You can close it. All right, welcome. So that's okay. So I know we have a little technical challenge, but it's all right.
Just a little, but yeah,
That's
well,
okay. So I'm here with Dr. Helen Fosam, and I'm really excited to talk about this tonight. I know she's joining me tonight for my 30-day challenge. You guys know that I have challenged myself, right? It's a 30-day challenge because we're in this somewhat together, right? So this is the 30-day challenge talking about going from burnout to wealth building. And in this 30-day challenge, we're talking about burnout, and we're talking about actionable strategies to escape burnout, right? So that's what we're going to be doing over the next 30 days. And we are now on day 3. And so tonight I want to talk about, and the subtitle probably gave it away, I want to talk about the number one reason why nurses must build wealth in 2025. And, before I get into that, I want to share my story a little bit. I know we've talked about it, and I gave you guys my why last night, why I do what I do. I talked about my vision statement. And for me, I dealt, and you probably know some of this, but for those of you who don't, so let's talk to those people who may not know. I worked for over almost 20 years at the time in the traditional setting, and worked my way up to nursing leadership, achieved certifications, and dealt with a bit of bias that led to burnout. And when I see what's going on in the administration right now, and not that I want to get political, but when I see what's going on right now, it really reminds me of similar reasons as to why I left the traditional setting of healthcare. Sometimes when you take certain roles, it's almost like dealing with politics, right? It could be very political in certain roles, and that politics and that bureaucracy also has some intertwining of bias in there. So when we talk about the removal of DEI and all of these things aren't things that are new to me, right? And I just got to a point where I had just had enough. And with the pandemic rearing its ugly head, it just really exposed our healthcare systems. And right now, we're being exposed once again. And it just really, really makes me even more passionate about why I do what I do, especially with the Health and Wealth Expos, with the summits that we host. Actually, was speaking with a really, really good friend yesterday. She's a nurse as well, and she actually applied for a ACNO position out in California, and she's done a lot of interim positions over the years. She's done a lot of travel nursing. We actually met years ago as a travel nurse, and she's done a lot of interim positions over the years, and she is to the point, and she just has so much. So her resume is very long. She has so much expertise, so much experience. And when you get to the point where you're being told that your experience is, when there's always a reason, right, where you can't get the role. And she was sharing with me how she was told that, well, why did you always only have interim positions? Now, my resume is about 20 years long, and because I've only had interim positions, and I'm just paraphrasing this, this isn't all the details, but the fact that I have interim positions is a problem for my resume, even though I'm fully experienced. However, now someone else was given that role, and this person is not nearly as qualified as this nurse who has a doctorate degree. I think she's working on her second doctorate degree as well. But it's these type of things that really make you, when we talk about bias in healthcare, right? When we talk about the politics that goes on in healthcare. So what's happening right now is nothing, in what's happening right now in the political arena, I should say, is kind of nothing new to some of us, right? And that's can, is similar to why I left the traditional setting and decided to start my own business. And when you think about why nurses, and this is why I should say nurses really need to start looking at how they're going to build wealth, because we don't know what's going to be around in a couple of years, right? We don't know, with everything being taken away, with all of the uncertainties in the government, we need to really start positioning ourselves. So when we talk about being dependent on, one income, it's risky, and again, ask the people at the NIH, who's in healthcare, who lost their jobs. Ask the people at Mass Gen who are suffering or dealing with layoffs. So having one stream of income is very, very, very risky. And, hospitals are cutting, having budget cuts, doing layoffs. Burnout is at an all-time high. And it just, if you don't create financial security beyond your paycheck, you are leaving your financial future at risk, and you're at risk, and you're leaving it in the hands of someone else. And wealth equals wealth. Wealth equals freedom is what I meant to say. And if it gives you options, and it gives you control over your own security and your own career, and whether it's through investments, whether it's through business, or whether it's through passive income, you want to be able to build wealth so that it's no longer, building wealth is no longer a luxury, right? It's a necessity. Because we want to start talking about generational wealth and having passive income streams, and what are we leaving for our family. So when you think about, what can I do, right? What's something that I can do? Well, you can start networking. You can attend events like the Health and Wealth Expo and the Live Summit. We are going to be talking about these things. And tonight I have Dr. Helen Fosam, who is going to be one of our speakers, and she's going to be talking about medical writing. Now, medical writing is definitely one of the topics that we're going to be talking about at the Health and Wealth Expo. And it's really going to gives you an opportunity to open up an entirely different stream of income that I think people don't necessarily think about. So without further ado, I want to introduce Dr. Helen Fosam. I want her to introduce herself to you and share a little bit about, I think I'll start with, why did you agree to speak at the Health and Wealth Expo? I think I'll start there. How about that? Well, welcome.
Well,
Thank you so much.
absolutely, Dr. Lendra. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes, tell them a little bit about you and why you chose to speak at the expo.
Sure, absolutely. So let me just take a step back. You told your great story how you got into do what you're doing now. So let me take a step back and tell you how I got into medical writing, and then why I accepted to speak at the summit. So going back several years, we lived in England. You might tell from my accent. We lived in England for many, many years. My husband got a job transfer to the United States, and we all relocated. I come from a very scientific background. I have a doctorate in physiology. I did research for many, many years. So coming to the United States, I started looking for a job and started filling out my resume. And all the opportunities that came my way were medical writing. And I looked at this and I said, okay, I know medical, I know writing, medical writing, what the heck is that? I had no idea. So in actual fact, I ignored a lot of the opportunities that came my way. I didn't know what it was. So a friend of mine said, okay, why don't you just interview? You might like it. And I did. The first interview I attended, I got the job. And that's how my career started, purely by accident. And once it started, medical writing really became a niche that I fell into, because a lot of times people go into medical writing from various backgrounds. I can tell you that every single nurse that will attend the summit has all the skills that they need. Mm-hmm. all the skills that I needed to be able to do my medical writing, to go into the field of medical writing, I had it already. I had a research background. I come from a scientific, background. I worked with various healthcare professionals. So all the skills that I needed to be able to do what I do as a medical writer, I already have, just like all the other people that will be attending the summit, whether you come from a healthcare background or not, you have the skills that you need. So with that said, I fell into medical writing purely by accident, and that was 23 years ago. When we met at I think it was one of the meetings, I think it was a Health and Wellness Expo, if you recall. Yes, I had a table. I had a table that didn't say anything about medical writing. It had, I was displaying my nonprofit that I had started because of my medical writing. But that's by the way. So we spoke, and you said you were having this Health and Wealth Expo, and that you'd like me to come along and speak. And I said, okay, yeah, that'll be great. And then, okay, what do you do? I said, yeah, I'm a medical writer. I said, brilliant, come along.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do I do as a medical writer? A medical writer is essentially someone who creates technical content that is primarily targeted at the medical audience. The kind I do is targeted at physicians. But medical writing is so broad in the sense that it can also be targeted to patients. It could be targeted to the regulatory agencies, to the pharmaceutical companies. It really depends on the type of medical writing you do. I say this because we all have different interests, and we all come from different backgrounds. There are some people who are highly technical and want to really focus the kind of work, the writing they do, to that, upper end, maybe to the highly specialists, to the regulatory agencies, to the pharmaceutical companies. And then there are others who are more general, they want to speak, in terms of write according to the language of the patients. So there are those who focus their writing on, just the patients. And, so from the patients up to the regulatory agencies, there are so many, in-betweens. So medical writing is really for everybody. And I really, was excited about the summit because and especially the audience that you were going to speak to, I felt that this medical writing will be a niche or an area that they would, they can also love like I do, because it exposes a whole, set of opportunities. I think I've shared this before. I always say that with medical writing, nobody can pay me enough to work for somebody else.
Right.
Because it's not only, okay, I started off working for a company that was for about 9 or 10 years, and then I became a freelance medical writer, and I've been doing that for 14 years. And it's the freelance medical writing that has really allowed me to, if I grow the wealth that I, wanted to grow. It allowed me to be as flexible as I wanted to be. When I started medical writing, I have very young children. Medical writing or freelance medical writing allowed me to be at home with my children. Mm-hmm. It allowed me to sit down for breakfast with them, see them off to school, be sure that I pick them up from the bus stop, know who they're with, especially as teenagers, when they grew up, became, So the field of medical writing and freelance medical writing specifically, I think it allowed me that, work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
This thing about burnout, I'm not saying that having your own business as a medical writer, a freelance medical writer, doesn't have its challenges. It absolutely does.
Right.
Because like any business, it's up to you to make it grow. It's up to you to get the clients. It's up to you to keep your clients. It's no different.
Right.
But it fitted me so well because it meant that I could decide to not do anything between 9 and 12 so I can be with my children.
Flexibility. Mhm. I
Well,
love it.
because of that flexibility, it was, you know, it just allowed me to plan my day around my children when they were young.
Right.
Well, including my husband, because he's also in the equation. So it allowed me to, you know, to fit what I needed to fit in to make sure that they get the attention that they needed. I was there for their homework. I could go to all the, school conferences. I was there for their extracurricular, whether be it, they're doing a school play or there's some sporting activities that they needed to go to.
Right.
Even during the school holidays, I could work around their schedule. So, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. I don't know, but
No, because what I'm hearing is it allowed you a lot of it allowed you a lot of flexibility,
absolutely.
which doesn't when you work in the traditional setting, you're not always allowed that, right? So you're married to holidays, and I'm saying married loosely, but you have to work holidays, right? A weekend, and you have to do some places, or you have to do every other weekend. Some places are a little more flexible with their weekends, but you still have to have that commitment. Some places you have to work 2 winter holidays and a summer holiday, or maybe you have to do every other holiday. You have to get approval to go on vacation with your families. You need approval to get a day off if you want to attend those events with your family. So I get what I'm hearing is a lot of flexibility, which a lot of nurses don't get when they work and even as nurse leaders, right? Nurse leaders are often held to the fire as well, and do not have a lot of flexibility when it comes to certain roles. A lot of times you're on call 24/7. So I love that this is the type of topic that nurses need to know about, because I don't know if a lot of, again, and this is me speaking in my opinion, I don't know if a lot of nurses think about, oh, I'm gonna go to be a medical writer. Right. I don't know if we realize that this can be a whole side business on the side that
Totally.
can allow you to not only have flexibility, and then don't let me put, I want you to, and or is this this is what you're going to be sharing at the summit? Tell a little, like, give us one little gem or one topic that you're going to talk about at the summit, but what they can look forward to.
Well, so there'll be a short exercise because medical writing is not for everybody.
Mhm.
So there'll be, let's just call it a questionnaire that will ask some, strategic questions, and that will help you, the participants, decide whether this is for me or not for me. And in terms of what I will cover, it's quite there's a lot to medical writing, obviously. But what I'll do is give maybe a 3,000-foot sort of overview of what medical writing is all about, from even what even the financial opportunities that exist. It's right now it's about 8 billion with a B dollar industry, and it's
For
only
bringing that up. And I'm
high.
sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Thank you for bringing that up, because I wanted you to mention that. What can someone expect to make from, because like you said, it's an $8 billion industry in medical writing. So what, on average, or if someone, really wanted to, what can they look at making from
Okay.
being a medical writer?
Okay. So that depends on the type of medical writing you do. And it also depends on how much medical writing you want to do. Now, we talked about this work-life balance and being on the call constantly. You can decide, okay, I'm just going to go part-time. I'm going to make up the rest of my income with working on the side as a writer. And you don't need anything. When I started, it was a laptop and a table, period. That's all you need. So in terms of how much can you make, okay, I know that there are, when you start out, obviously, and again, depending on where you are, like for example, there are some MDs, there are some, very experienced nurses that will charge top of the range. And it could be anything from, I don't know, like $60, $70 an hour, all the way to, $250 an hour, depending on what you write, on what you're doing.
Right.
And I know in terms of, there is a salary survey that they do every year that AMWA, this is the American Medical Writers Association does every year.
Right.
And I can share that. And it just shows you the salary range. And there are some people who are earning maybe an average of about maybe 80, 90,000 a year, all the way through to maybe 250, 300,000 a year,
Right.
depending on the type of medical writing that you select.
Awesome. And you're going to be given a certificate of completion.
Absolutely.
That's what attendees can expect to receive at the end of your
Absolutely.
workshop, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Right.
everybody should come along. And as I say, it's an awesome opportunity for anyone, really, because we all have the skills, especially as nurses. You are all skilled in one area or the other. And just imagine every time you go to a doctor, there's always some printed material they give you, right? There's always a pamphlet somewhere sitting on the table, right? Or if it's a hospital setting, yeah, they always have some sort of a brochure. Yeah. All those are written by people. You could have a contract with a hospital, or a community center to write this material. And when you came to my table, remember that Milo table that you came when we met?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All those pamphlets that you saw were written by medical writers. So there is something for everyone. It depends on what your interest is. And I'm going to cover all that. We call them niches. There's different niche. You find your niche.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it.
And once you
Well,
find that niche,
yes. Find the niche. So I love it. Well, there you have it. I think I think you've given just enough for people to realize that they need to come. Like this is just, and what these are the type of things I get so excited about because I hand select my all of my speakers, and it's for a reason. And because I know the value of medical writing, and once the attendees get there, they'll know. And by listening to you and hearing what you have to say, you're shedding light and letting people, opening their eyes, and you're bringing awareness, because I think people may not even think about it and not realizing. And I think you made a great point. It's like those brochures, like, yeah, medical writers wrote those. And people like, oh my gosh, I can create a brochure and have a contract with like with a community center and get paid for that. Yes.
And
So
get this.
I love it.
And get this. So that Milo, those brochures, the nonprofit part of what I do, because I started the nonprofit to give back to the community that gave me all the knowledge and skills I have.
Right.
So I started that because I wanted to be able to use my skills and knowledge as a medical writer to serve the underserved communities who don't speak English as a first language.
Right.
And get this, it's not only the people that are local here in the Lehigh Valley or in the United States. I'm working with people across the world.
Exposure.
Yes.
International exposure. I love it.
This is all possible because I had the freedom. I had the flexibility. I could say no to a client that I no longer want, and I've done that.
And think about it. We can't do that in the hospital, right?
No.
If for those who work in the hospital, you can't refuse who you work with, or what patient is assigned to you. Well, I mean, I say that loosely, but you know what I mean. As opposed to when you have your own business, you can decide who you want to work with and who you don't.
Yes.
Period. 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 Right.
And one of my contracts, I took a vacation in England. And I was online, as long as I have the internet, I could do my work from anywhere in the world.
There you go. I love
So
it.
yeah, so please come along. And
Yes. Right, there you have it. So make sure you join. I was just going to say, why should people come? But yeah, I think you've said enough. Like, you've wrapped up why people should attend and why they need to attend. So thank you so much for sharing, coming on. Thank you for sharing what you do. Thank you for being a part of this summit. This is a passion project for me. And, thank you for being willing to pour into the attendees. You have so much to offer them, and I just can't wait. I can't wait for you guys. I'm talking to the Facebook group. So
okay,
I
I'm sorry,
can't wait.
I have to figure out this Facebook thing.
Don't worry, no worries, no worries. I hope that they were able to hear you. I kind of had the area over here, so I hope you guys were able to hear her and take all of that in. Dr. Helen Fosam is going to be speaking on medical writing at the Health and Wealth Expo Live Summit, May 15th and 16th. Please head over to healthandwealthexpolive.com if you have not registered yet. Early registration ends March 31st. So please, please, please go ahead and register before before ticket prices go up. I want you guys to be there. Join us for the meet and greet on May 14th. You guys are in for such a miraculous, spectacular 2-day event that is going to be taking place. And Helen, I know I so thoroughly enjoyed you at the event that we attended earlier today. And this event is going to be that and then some, right? Because it's all about empowerment. Like, that was just a few hours. We're going to be doing this for 2 days, just empowering you. I know I mentioned before, we're going to have the pitch competition. So those of you with startup businesses, come be ready to pitch your business. The grand prize is going to receive a cash prize for you, monetary prize. Who wouldn't want that to put towards as a resource to put towards your business? And that could be for marketing, that could be for equipment, that could be for anything. We all need something when we're in a startup, and we recognize that. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you so much, Dr. Fossum, for sharing your knowledge. I can't wait for you to give all of those gems at the expo May 15th. I can't wait. All right, guys. Well, I will see you tomorrow night, same time, 8 o'clock. Thank you for joining me on this 30-day live. I told you I would have special guests, and I will also be giving you actionable steps and strategies during these 30 days. So thanks for joining, and thanks for tuning in. And I will see you guys next time. Bye. Have a good night. I'll see you
Bye.
tomorrow.
Bye.